Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to the Process Podcast. We're here today with Harry Mueller and Selindra Bearfield. So,
Yes.
guys, so today we're going to acknowledge those folks who from different countries who work in the sterile processing environment.
Yes.
So let me give a shout out to my Jamaican people. And at the end of the show, I would like somebody to try and guess what country I'm from. So shout out to my Jamaican people, my Trinidadian folks, and also my Filipinos. I know Salindra has had interactions with Filipinos also,
Yes.
and um, also my African people do a lot of overtime. So I like I like my African folks, and I like the African food also. So
Me
wherever
too.
you meet an African, you'll definitely get some good African food. All
Yes.
right. So Linda, any interactions you've had with any international folks working in cell processing?
Yes, when I first started at UCLA Medical Center back in was that 2000 and I think it was 12. Um, Predominantly the nurses there and the sterile processing technicians were Filipino. So the person who trained me, I worked on graveyard shift for about almost 2 years with her, my buddy Belly, and we became really tight. She invited me to family events, and I got to hang out and eat the food and understand the culture. And I had the opportunity to ask her questions about her culture that I didn't know anything about, and she was able to do the same thing with me too. And it kind of, I guess, dispelled some myths of what she thought soul food was, and I was like, that's not what we do. So it was pretty fun those 2 years that we spent together, and we still stay in contact now.
Okay, I'm going to interject here. So you worked at UCLA, Ronald Reagan or Santa Monica?
Santa Monica.
Okay, I was over. Well, I worked at both a few years back. I think 2017, no, 2016 to 18 or something like that. And
Yes.
I was the system educator for all of the 5 sites for the sterile processing departments. But my office was at Ronald Reagan.
So you must know Eve Blunston because that was my manager.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
Yes.
Oh wow,
love
small world.
love her.
Yes.
She's over at Cedar Sinai now.
Oh wow! Because when I got there, when I first came in there, I was fresh out of school for sterile processing, and Eve was new as a manager in the department. But I think she'd been working for UCLA like 15 or 20 years at the time. She came in there with really not that much knowledge, got certified, and ran that department like a sewing machine. That I know.
Yeah,
She was about the book.
she definitely was, and it's one of those things that if for some reason there was a minor change that needed to be made, she was so receptive
Yes.
for input.
Yes.
But I've learned over the years to ask questions first.
Yes.
Why do you do it this way? I do it this way because the standards say.
Yes.
And she loved it. Her and
Yes.
I got along extremely well. Love her to
Yes.
death.
Yes. Yes. I haven't run into another manager like her since.
You got to put your mic on there.
You talking to us?
Yes, I'm playing around with everything. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so Selindra, any interesting news in cell processing?
Oh, not necessarily sterile processing, but I do have some interesting news overall. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the FDA doing their emergency use authorization. Well, they have another one. With this Eli Lilly's, they have a COVID-19 antibody combo that they're putting out there, and they're saying it's not for people who require hospitalization or oxygen therapy, but they're saying that if you have COVID-19 and I guess your symptoms are not too severe, you can take this cocktail and it may prevent your symptoms from getting worse. So they just got their emergency use. Also, this was interesting too, is in the medical field, nurses. The Biden administration is going forward with, I guess, something that the previous president administration had noticed, that they overpaid nursing schools by like $11 billion. No, $11.5 million. So now they're telling the nursing schools in the midst of a pandemic that they want their money back.
Oh, wow.
Also, what is interesting in the news, now this probably people in sterile processing maybe can relate to this a little bit if they deal with equipment. These are those oxy machines. We call them those oxy machine pulse oximeters, the ones that measure the oxygen. So what they're saying is there's a disparity between Black people and white people. So they're saying that it's harder for them to get an accurate reading with the color of our skin being too dark, and I guess it's an issue with that. And so now they're going back to the drawing table and say, okay, if we, I guess, purchase from a particular manufacturer, they need to prove to us or show that Black people are going to get the proper reading on these oximeters. Also in the news, this happened, I think it was a couple of days ago. There was a shooting, 1 dead, 4 injured at Alena Health Clinic. And this was in, I believe it was in Minnesota, Buffalo, Minnesota, where it left 1 person dead and 4 people injured. They said the guy was at the medical center and he had been there previously and he was unhappy with his medical treatment. So he went back there with a gun and shot a couple of people. And then finally, what I see in the news, and I can give you all the sources for this because I actually do have sources. They talked about in the dental world, they're talking about the 10 best places to get dental health and the 10 worst places. And at the top of the list for the best is in Wisconsin. And for the worst at the top is Mississippi. And that's what I have for a little news you probably can use.
I make a correction there. The worst is not Mississippi. It's England.
Who is it?
England.
Oh,
Have
as far
you
as
seen their teeth?
No.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. I guess you're right.
But I guess they were polling where in the United States.
Yes, where in the United States. Where they said, and I don't even know how they scaled it or what have you. But yeah, they said Wisconsin the best, Mississippi is the worst. But I worked in Mississippi. I worked at the university hospital there, and their teeth look okay to me. So I don't know what worse means. I guess as far as money go.
Quite possibly.
Yes. So that's the news.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. So, Harry, what's new on your end in Cali, where there's no snow?
Well, I don't have the same level of, access to information. I've been quarantined for a year, so I do everything this way. We do it virtually. I talk on the phone and stuff like that. I know that there's been some, still some controversy as far as masks, the improper types of masks, too thin, coming from China, which is, I think it's a conspiracy because, they sent us the virus and now they're sending us bogus masks. I think, so I don't know what else to say about that. Here on the West Coast, things are, luckily starting to lighten up. And although in my counties, it's still highly restricted, people to be able to get out. And I think overall, the bad thing about COVID is that, people are not used to being locked down and cooped up and stuff like that, and not having that. I know we have social media. We use our phones all the time, and Twitter and TikTok and all that. But even with that, not having that physical contact, being able to, meet with friends on a regular basis and stuff, it's taken a toll on mental health. So again, it's kind of like picking up on what like Solyndra. It's not necessarily sterile processing related, but it's, what's going on. And, we just, we need to, we need to pull together and get things going so that way we can get our economy going. We can get our, mental health capabilities going. people are, unfortunately, some people are committing suicide, and it's just not what we were meant to do. And I've been watching, a lot of good education out there. I'm all, last time I talked to you, Deannard, on your show, my focus is education all the time. So, little plug, our school will be releasing the CIS course. We finished up the PowerPoints, and it's not geared for the average sterile processing tech that has 10, 15, 20 years experience, because if you've got that much experience, go take that test and get that certification. I think for somebody who's really experienced, you're going to be able to do fine. It's for the people who are, 5 or less years, or, just coming into the field, that we've created it for. And then later in the year, we'll have the CHL, and we do have the CER. We're just not ready to, we're kind of releasing it kind of like in the order that Isham has kind of done things. They had the CR, CST, CIS, CHL, and now CER. So we're kind of following suit there. So that's some of the things that I see happening and going on.
Okay, great. Alessandra, thank you, Harry. Alessandra, tell us about the eye on sterile processing. I've seen you doing a lot of great things on Facebook, and your website looks really good. I actually gave somebody your information yesterday to get these. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my goodness, the website is so much stuff. Really, it's a collection of my life, if you ask me, because I'm not good with, I guess, notes and keeping everything in one place. So the best thing for me to do is build a website and keep all this creative information in one place. And that's pretty much what I did. So you go to the website and you're going to find places you can get your CEU units. You're going to find tabs to the podcast, information to build a resume, cover letters, pretty much traveling. If you're traveling as a sterile processing tech, I have a whole website for that, all the way to how they rank hospitals, agencies to go, try out. It's just a plethora of information that I think is useful for a sterile processing tech. Everything is on there. It's pretty much free. I did put together like some study guides and study flashcards and things like that. But for the most part, 95% of the stuff on there is just for people to use, to help them be a better tech, to help them feel more confident, videos, everything. So it's a great resource for sterile processing techs.
And the website is, you got to plug it.
Thank you. The website is eyeonspd.com. EYESPD.com.
And
typing it in right now.
Yep, eyeonspd.com.
And also, guys, this live will also be live on YouTube. Also, my YouTube channel, SterileMD.com. My SterileMD YouTube channel, and also SterileMD.com. I will be putting these videos on there too. So, and also, if you want a cool T-shirt like this one, go to my SterileMD store on Etsy.com. Everybody plug that thing on. I know, Alessandra, you got some T-shirts too, right?
Some who?
T-shirts.
T-shirt too?
T-shirts. You had some shirts too.
Yeah, I did build some T-shirts on Teespring. I put a few things out there, but honestly, I think I need to start doing more marketing. I think I got caught up in building, and the more stuff I learned, the more websites I built. And I think I need to stop and just go back and start marketing the stuff, because I do have a lot of stuff. I forgot about half the stuff, but I do have T-shirts out there as well on Teespring. And you should be able to find a link too on Ion SPD. I call it SPD swag.
SPD swag?
Yes.
Yeah, because we need a T-shirt out there for these SPD techs. SPD, the unsung hero.
Yes.
I saw on Deannard's website, it was talking about frontline. That SPD, we were frontline long before frontline became popular.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing is, when COVID came about, everybody was talking about the nurses on the front line. Now I was like, we've been on the front line every day since the inception of sterile processing. So it's nothing new for us. It's just that people getting to know it right now. So that was my whole purpose for creating that, to just give ourselves recognition.
Oh yeah.
on that we've been on
Well,
the front line.
one of the things that it's no surprise. I mean, we're used to being behind the scenes anyway.
Yeah.
We walk through the hospitals. They don't, people don't know what job we do. They just see that we're in scrubs and stuff. So, and a lot of people are okay with being behind the scenes. I've always been okay, when it comes to doing my job. That's why I'm on this show, to, see my face and all that. But, some people don't like the recognition necessarily, but as a group, it's, I don't see enough, even through like ISHM or CBSPD on their website, they talk about CS Week, at the end of the year and stuff, but it still falls through the cracks. And let's face it, the hospital would practically shut down if we decided to walk out.
Yes.
They would throw people in there thinking they knew what they were going to be doing.
Yes.
But when they start touching the machines, they're like, well, how does this work? And aha, that's right.
That is so true.
I tell my students when I go to hospitals, I make sure that people understand what sterile processing truly is. And I explain to them, you have the infection control department, but they're actually, infection control after the fact. They respond to reports and incidences and stuff like that. Even when they're kind of being proactive in our hospital, it's because they've received information from the CDC or the World Health Organization. And so they're still responding. The true infection preventionist is sterile processing, because we have to make sure that our products are free from contamination and absolutely safe for the patient long before, so if a patient gets an infection, generally it's not coming from us. Usually it's from not washing hands and stuff, cross-contamination.
That's something so simple, yet it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because I remember many days being in the break room and they have potlucks back in the day when we could have potlucks. And they had potlucks and you would see people coming in. It didn't matter if it was a nurse, a doctor, or a tech, and they go straight to the food or the chips and never stop to wash their hands. And I'm like, you could have washed your hands next door, but you just touched that door handle. So you probably need to wash your hands again before you put them in the chips. So, yeah.
Well, I knew a technician that was years ago, didn't smell too well. Every year during gift exchange, he would always get either cologne or bar soap, or people would always give something, directed towards his hygiene. And, he'd come in and put his hands into the bowl of chips and stuff. And then, later on, somebody's like, hey, Harry, you want some chips? And I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I learned that early. Like, if I didn't open up their bag, I'm not doing the chips at the potluck in the break room. And then I want to go back to what you said, too, about sterile processing. If everyone left out of the sterile processing department, how surgeries couldn't happen. And that actually, it didn't happen to me. I was hired onto a hospital where they had wet load issues. I didn't know it during the interview until my first day. And I realized they were having wet loads after wet loads. And eventually, they had to cancel surgeries. Now, when they had to cancel surgeries, the CEO and the CFO and all the C-suite came down to a place they didn't even know really where it was located. And then they started asking us, what exactly do you do? And they wanted us to walk them through the process. And when we wrote down all the steps it took from decontamination to producing that perfect product at the end, it was sheets and sheets long. And they couldn't even believe we had did all of that work. But yeah, once though we got those wet loads, surgery had to stop, and everybody paid attention to sterile processing. Everyone wanted to know, what do we do? We were the subject matter experts at that point and at that time to the CEO.
Yeah. And by the way, before we forget, I just want to do a shout out to the couple of people that have logged into the show. Yes. Lila Price. And
hey, Lila.
And if I think it's pronounced Sharon Combs. Sharon. I'm terrible with names sometimes.
Oh, Sharon's out there.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in.
See, I'm multitasking. I've got the Facebook page open so I can see who's commenting, Hey, does anybody? They had mentioned somebody had mentioned on, asking you guys better go to the scrub ball in June. So, have you ever heard of the scrub ball? Because I have to be honest, I haven't.
Is that a furry ball? I have no idea what it is. That was
A furry ball?
That was an attempt at a joke.
You know what? I have something else too for the news. I have a book that's totally related to sterile processing. Have you heard about it?
No.
It is wild.
What happened? Oh.
Have you seen this book?
Yes,
Sharon Combs is the author in this book.
Yes.
When you said her name, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's the news that's directly related to sterile processing. That went over my head. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yes. I'm eager to read the book because I haven't yet gotten my copy, Lila. So I'm hoping to get it soon.
Oh, y'all got notes in there, and I didn't peel back pages and all kinds of stuff.
Well, maybe let me take my glasses off. Maybe we can get an autograph book.
Ooh, I definitely like that. Ooh. Oh my goodness. So where did he go? He's gone?
Well, remember, he's working behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. So what do you think about this whole double mask thing? Because, I mean, that's a little confusing to some people, controversial to me. I have so many mixed emotions behind it because I'm not sure what to think because tomorrow to be something different.
Double mask as in regular mask and surgical mask, or two surgical masks?
You know what? It seemed like they're saying as long as you put two things over your face, you're good. So I don't really know at this point.
Well, it is controversial. I got to tell you, for the past year, I've been one of those people that, I'd walk into Stater Brothers, my local grocery store, not wearing my mask. I do the social distancing thing, but no more because, back in January, I let everybody know that I had my wife brought COVID home. Because she had a friend that she was driving with, and her husband apparently had COVID, but they said, oh no, he has pneumonia, and so he was coughing. And so that weekend, my wife came home, and her and I both got sick, and I got to tell you, it wasn't pleasant. So I'm like, well, whether masks work or not, it is some protection.
Yes.
But somebody had posted, because I've seen posts, on Facebook and within the sterile processing groups, somebody had posted that, well, if double masks work, then why didn't they make them that way in the first place?
Right.
And to me, it's like, well, they did. The ones that work are the N95 masks.
Yes.
So right now I'm the person that tells everybody, I tell my students and everybody, because I'm telling you, you don't want to get COVID.
Right.
They had me on oxygen for a week and a half.
Wow.
Finally put me on steroids, and that finally started to loosen or clear things up. But it's not funny. I stopped my because I have a personal and business Facebook account. I keep them separate, and on my personal, I was. Because I put things out there for controversy, make people think. But now it's like, and I'm not going to contribute to negativity towards mask or COVID or anything like that. It's like, we need to get through this. We need to get to the other side of this journey and stuff. So,
right.
Okay. So Sharon had asked, who is they, and do they work with viruses, etc.? Did we say they?
Probably did. I'm used to saying they and them and we. If we were
I used to be a union steward, so I'm used to saying us and we and stuff. I applied for a job one time, and I was talking in the us's and we, and then at the end of the interview, the manager asked me, "Can I ask you personal? Were you ever a union steward?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." So, They, well, if it's, I don't know who the question was directed to. They, in my book, or as far as just the different people who post talking about double masks and stuff. Okay, so I'm reading the thing. So Solyndra, it was you that said they said wear 2 masks. Who is they?
The CDC.
The CDC. Oh, yes. So the CDC is saying that now.
Yes, the CDC. They actually put something out today. I read it on, I think it was Becker's Health. I should have talked about that today, but yeah, they're saying that go ahead and wear 2 masks is better protection. I think they even said like 95% protection against droplets of the coronavirus. I know. I'm leaving that alone. And then in my local news here in Columbus, you have a doctor that she came on, I think a couple of days ago, and saying that pretty much you need to go ahead and wear the double mask. It's more protection against the coronavirus. It's better than one, but then the research I've done, nobody can say exactly the science is behind 2 masks, 2 cloth masks will, filter out, like a respirator N95 mask, but 2 is better than 1. But then also I hear that, once you get the vaccine, some people are under the impression you do not have to social distance, you do not have to wear a mask. So a lot of people, even here in my local news, are saying, well, if everybody get the vaccine, and these were business owners saying, if everyone get the vaccine at my restaurant, then they don't have to wear masks because I know they don't like wearing masks.
Well, that's like saying, if you get COVID, don't have to worry about it. You have the immunity. No, well, I've had the flu, and then I've been come in contact after I got the flu with somebody else who had the flu, and I ended up getting a milder, a strain of it or whatever. I didn't suffer as much, but I still got it. And I remember one time it's like I get through a cold, and a couple of weeks later the cold comes back, and then I get through it. And so, I think that we just don't know. There's not enough research out there. I mean, this is our first pandemic dealing with a SARS type, with the COVID. Yes. And to say that, well, this is a definitive answer, there's a lot of research that needs to go out there. I mean, there's a lot of controversy about the vaccines, like you said, whether or not you're going to you get the vaccine, you don't have to worry about, social distancing or anything. The controversy on whether or not it's safe or not. I know that, what is it? It's a RNA, a type of mRNA, nRNA or something like that. I know it's what it's doing is it's kind of genetically coding, telling us what COVID is like, and, to program us how to our bodies to fight the virus and stuff. To me, that's no different than mother's milk. When the baby's breastfeeding, what it's doing is it's passing off the immunities, and it's programming the baby to be able to, because I think when a baby's first born, and I'm not an expert on this, but I don't think that they have the strongest immune system in the world. So that's, so the mother programs the baby, so to speak. And I just, there was a friend of mine from high school, and I see the gray. I've been out of high school for a long time, but she's saying that good luck for those who get the vaccine, because in 5 years, research says that you're going to be dead. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, okay, people are crazy,
I actually listened to a show on Facebook called Knowledge or Nonsense, where Sharon Combs mentioned, not Sharon Combs, and Sharon Green Golden mentioned that about double mask. I think that was one of the first times I heard about it, that you should wear your actual mask over your what do you call it, your outdoor custom special wardrobe, your accessory mask, as they would say. So I think that's definitely the way to go in terms of that.
Well, you have breaking news here at, what is this, WILX in California. They said a California man tested positive for COVID-19 after his second vaccine dose, and he had the Pfizer vaccine. And this was published on February the 9th of this year.
Hey, don't be saying that it was Pfizer, all right? You're making my stock go down.
The way people on Robinhood playing with stocks, you never know what's going to go up and down. Yes, honey, it was Pfizer. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Well, you know, one of the things is, you know, again, getting the vaccine, chances, you know, what they're going to probably say is chances are the person had the virus when they were getting the vaccine. And again, it's, again, I don't think the vaccine is meant to prevent you from getting it. It's like the flu vaccine. It helps you to build your immunity to better fight it if you do get it.
Right.
You know, so again, you know, and I'm not a, you know, I'm not a I am a conspiracy theorist to some point.
Yeah, you're.
But when it comes to vaccines, like
come
the flu vaccine, I get it every year.
Okay.
It absolutely works. I used to get bronchitis all the time. Absolutely works. I don't get bronchitis all the time. You know, so it's important. Myself, now, if you were to ask me, hey, are you going to get the vaccine? No, only because there's not enough research, in my opinion. I want to see what the side effects are. You know, I know that they probably been working on this, you know, because it's COVID is, again, is a SARS type virus.
Yes.
And I know they've probably been doing research for a long time, but, you know, how long, you know, where do you get the human trials and seeing what the after effects are and stuff? So, you know,
so Harry, I have a question for you.
Jury's out as far as that goes. But for those that are going forward and getting the vaccine or on the front lines, I applaud them. I think it's great. You know,
I have a question for you, Harry.
Yes.
So did you have all those questions when you initially had to get the flu vaccine?
You mean questions, doubts about the vaccine? No,
Yes,
because the flu vaccine's been around. Well, put it this way. I would say when I was in my, you know, 18 in my early 20s and stuff, when you had the opportunity to get the vaccine, I did not get it. But I had at least witnessed long term that people would get it, the vaccine for the flu. And other than the normal, you know, sore arm, or they, you know, they think they got the flu because they got the vaccine. No, you got the symptoms because you had a dead virus in you and your body didn't know it's dead. And so then it calmed down. But really, honestly, I really didn't start getting the vaccine until for the flu until I was probably 39. And that was when I was 36 to 39 every year, 3 years in a row. I'd got bronchitis. Finally, when I went to the, you know, and I'd go to the doctor all the time, but when I was 39, the doctor finally said, well, you know, if you get the flu vaccine, you probably will not have, you know, get bronchitis. And so the next year I got the vaccine. I didn't get bronchitis. Next year, you know, it's been since 39. I'm 56 now. So I haven't had bronchitis since, and I get it every year. And I haven't, it's been, you know, more than 5 years. I haven't died. I don't even get the symptoms when I get the shot because I do you know, I take a couple of Excedrin before, or, you know, immediately after I get the shot. So that way, you know, I already have the analgesics or, you know, the stuff working in my system to fight the possible symptoms. So,
okay.
There's a lot of things out there that work, and people don't believe in holistic stuff. You know, echinacea. I think echinacea is wonderful. You know, I've had firsthand. I've started getting sick and took it, and actually, I was probably 32, and I was coming down with the sore throat and all that, and the coworker at the hospital I worked for, she gave me 8 capsules of the echinacea, told me to take it. And I'm like, well, how many? You know, 2, 3. She says, all of it. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Kill me? You know? And so I take it, and because she yelled at me. And so anyways, so I'm driving home, This was like 4 hours later. And sure enough, I got the chills, now really bad sore throat. And I'm like, see, it doesn't work. You know, next morning I wake up, I take my shower, I'm getting ready for work. Halfway in driving into work, I finally realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not sick.
Okay.
What happened? You know, so maybe it wasn't placebo. I know that because I didn't believe that it was going to work.
Right. Oh, wow.
By the way, we should probably have a chicken or something like that pops down whenever time it says the secret word. And I think the placebo is the secret word because Sharon first put on there that she was having placebo effects. You know, she wishes that we could see her face.
Oh my goodness.
So I have a question now. So Lindra, and I know Harry probably does that on a daily or every time he has a class, interview skills. So what advice could you give a sterile processing professional? So I'll give 3 levels. On the entry level, this is your first interview. You've just left the class. This is your new career. You're trying to get in. Second level, where you're a supervisor, you're trying to get into a supervisor position, and you've been a tech for a while, or you just happen to get the interview for a supervisor position. And the third one, you're trying to become a manager or infection or educator, and you're trying to get into that position. What advice would you have for those three levels?
That's for me or Harry?
Oh, he said Salendra first.
I thought so, but I was like, that's
It's
all
you.
me.
Oh, let's see.
Okay.
Ladies
I don't know
first,
if I'm pointing in the right
Ladies
direction.
first. Okay, that's good. So, honestly, I would say for me, it's all the same because you need to bring your real self. You need to be honest. And you need to be able to speak to the resume. Your resume was what probably got you in the room, but I think you need to be able to show that everything on that resume is real, and you should be able to speak to that. You should be able to, when you go in there, you need to know your audience. So you need to know the company that you're interviewing for, what their mission and values are, and those missions and values should line up to yours. You shouldn't go into a place that you cannot be your authentic self. Shouldn't go into a place if you're looking to move up, whether you're a brand new tech or you're a supervisor or you're a manager and you're trying to get to that next level and they don't offer that for you, then that probably will not be the place for you. If you go in there and because when you go into an interview, you're interviewing them too. Also, you don't want to go from the skillet into the fire. So you want to make sure you interview them as well. But for me, the biggest thing is making sure that they have values that line up with mine, and the goals I have for my life line up with that particular department. Because me personally, I like personal development. So I'm always looking for somewhere where I can grow. They got education money or hours or tuition reimbursement or something like that. That's what, and I need the resources there too. Do they have one source? Do they have machines that break down all the time? All that matters to me because I don't have time to keep dealing with, loads that are canceling, or, they don't have the stuff we need to get our job done. So I'm very worried about that too. But I say being your authentic self on all of them and being able to talk that talk, and everything on that resume, you need to be able to speak to it.
Absolutely.
My lips getting dry, but I don't know
sorry, that's the wrong button. That's the wrong button.
Supposed to be the clap.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Technical difficulties.
And I didn't even know that question was coming, so that came off the head. I wasn't even expecting that.
Yeah, that was a good,
like,
that was a real
me?
good answer.
Well, my 2 cents.
So Harry, how would you?
How would I do it? Okay, so the first thing is that there's an old joke. It's like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice.
Yes.
People think they're asking directions, as in how do you get there? No, it's how do you arrive? How do you actually play there? Same thing with sterile processing. So the first thing I do with my students, I do one-on-one practices with them. I have a script that, because I find that when it comes to the technical questions, there's 4 basic topics that can come up within, in the interview for sterile processing. That's going to be decontamination, the prep assembly, sterilization, and case picking. The rest of it all falls, whether it's like, well, delivery of equipment, well, you got to make sure it's clean. So it falls under decontamination, or like a case cart thing, because you're delivering supplies. So I actually have it all scripted out as to, from start to finish, what those duties entail, as far as being ready for the, having the tools to be able to do the job, then doing your assessment of what's going on, and then make your priorities and go forward. So I have the students study that first before they go on an interview. Then I go in and I explain to them then afterwards, why it is that they went and studied that is because it doesn't matter. The best way for when you're brand new going into the field to be ready for an interview is to know the script. You have to know the job, because honestly, even the 400 hours that you get at internship doesn't really explain everything, or, it helps definitely. But having the script, I think how it helps them is that whatever question is asked of them that based on technical, they need to see where it goes into those 4 categories, whether it's decon, prep assembly, and such. And once they know that, then I tell them, that's a good question, but before I can even, let's say, how do you prioritize when you're in decontamination? Well, before I can even prioritize, I got to start at the beginning. I got to have my tools to do the job, the brushes, the cleaning solution, the PPEs, describe what the PPEs are. And I let them know that if you're able to go through and start explaining from start to finish the entire process, let's say in decontamination, the manager is going to stop you halfway through and then go on to the next technical question. And it has been effective. And I personally have had over the years, probably 500 students that I have taught and have actually sat with to prepare them, and they've all gotten jobs, and they pretty much all come back and say the interview went exactly how I explained to them that it was going to go. And so what ends up happening is when you describe things so thoroughly, number one, managers, I'm sure people will agree, managers don't have a list of sterile processing questions that are given to them, or, you might have a manager here and there that's has these questions already written down in preparation for futures interviews. But if they're anything like me, they shoot from the hip, and they write down a couple questions real quick, and they're just trying to get a gist of what the technician is going to be like, and are they going to fit into the department and mesh well. So what they end up, so managers, I tell them, they look confident, but guess what? They're just as nervous during the interview process as you are, because they're like, you know what? HR doesn't have any questions, that I could use and stuff. So they're having to do it all on their own, especially if they're brand new managers and supervisors, so know that they're in the same boat as you are. They're nervous. When you answer the question so thoroughly by starting at the beginning of a process and going all the way through, you eliminate the questions coming from the manager. And so that relieves them. So they're like, good, I don't have to talk. I don't have to ask questions. The other thing is it gives them an idea that, hey, you know the process pretty well. So it's very important, to be prepared, practice and stuff. I also tell my students on the very first interview you go on, I go back to, it's guy from Boston, I think it is. He's on YouTube, a Jewish gentleman that goes through, and he has an interview skills type thing that he goes through, and it's like it's really on spot. And so I tell people, watch that. You got to be prepared. And one of the things that he says in the video is, first of all, when you go on the interview, have fun with it, because first of all, they can't take anything from you. They can only give you something. They can give you a job. They can give you a good experience of what to expect on interviews in the future. And if there's questions that you couldn't answer, I tell them, come back to those, if they finally, don't allow you to interview the way I'm trying to practice you and teach you how to interview, and they ask a question that you can't answer, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. But how would you handle it? I don't know the answer to that. Tell me, how would you handle that situation? Turn it around on them. You got to turn the interview into a conversation, and so that way, again, being real, as Alessandra said, you got to be yourself. You got to be real. Well, part of that is letting them know what is your true personality, because if you're being fake, it'll come through and they're not going to hire you. I mean, there's many things, and as far as, going on to the upper, that's what how I prepare brand new students. But somebody wanting to be an educator or a coordinator or supervisor, manager, the best thing to do there and the best way to be prepared for an interview is to apply for jobs that you don't want. So if there's other supervisor jobs, let's say if there's at the worst hospital you would never want to work there, if they have a position, apply for it to go on the interview. And so that way you can you get used to being on the interview in the interviews. I have to honestly be honest sometimes, and I can't do this. When they ask you, "Hey, what is your biggest strength?" If I was to tell them interviewing. I mean, I've gone on so many interviews just to practice that I'm really good at it. I've learned to talk to people. So you have to go on these interviews to practice. And then when you're actually on these interviews, even if for practice, you have to learn, because most of the time now, 20 years ago, you'd have the manager there and you. Now, managers love to do panel interviews, have at least one person, an additional person, or a bunch of people. And so the trick is when the person who asks you a question, you start answering it looking at them, but you're not looking at them. What you do is you use your peripheral vision and you look at the other people in the room to see what their reactions are. And then after about, let's say 10 seconds, you move your eyesight to somebody else. And so what you're doing is you're drawing them into the interview. And then after about 10 seconds, you go to the other person that's in the room. And then when you're going to finish up your answer, be sure to return to the person who asked the question, because you don't want them to feel that you were ignoring them by looking at other people. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so many things, I'm actually wanting to do create a PowerPoint on how to interview and preparing for an interview and put it out there as an educational tool for our industry, because a lot of people need it. Real quick story. I had one kid over at, I tell him a kid because I'm old, and he was in his, I think he was 19 years old. So interviewing over at UCLA. And I swear every time we asked him a question, he adjusted his tie, and then he'd start to answer. Well, and the only thing I could think of during the interview is the old comedian Rodney Dangerfield. And when the interview was over, my director was like, "So what'd you think about him?" And I go like this. So I said, "I'll say a name." And I go, "Rodney Dangerfield." And she laughed. She goes, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I was thinking." She goes, "What was with that?" So you have to you have to practice. You got to make sure you don't fidget. I had one interviewer that during an interview, she held an envelope, the manila envelope, in her hands, and you can tell it was filled with stuff. Nothing ever came out. She never gave us anything. And then when you asked her a question, she'd look at you, but when she was answering, she'd look up at the sky or something like that the whole time and never look at you in the face when she was answering you. And it was like, wow. Oh my! And the sad thing, she was one of my students.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, she did not listen to me when it came to the interview. It was just like, oh, so, I mean, there's definitely some do's and there's a bunch of don'ts when, so again, it goes back to practice. If you want to be a manager, director, supervisor, whatever it is, you need to practice. You got to go out, start going out on interview, even if, and it doesn't have to be a supervisor position that you're applying for in interview, another tech position, any interview. it's all good, you know. Where's my clap?
Where's it Oh,
I got you. So Harry, I have an issue with what you said. I have a real issue with what you said. You said, ask the interviewer to clarify the question or say you do not know the answer to that question. I'm frankly scared of that. So some interviewees may not like you throwing that question back to them. What do you think? Or I can't answer that. So what do you think about that?
Okay, so it goes back to practice, you know, because I used to, my first 6 months in sterile processing, I learned that, first of all, people like it when you're honest. If you're able to give good answers in certain things, and somebody, there's nothing worse than trying to ask or answer a question and you don't know what you're talking about, because what you're going to do is you're going to end up revealing to the manager that you're faking it, that you're not being true. So, I mean, if they ask you a technical question and you try to, like, I don't want to say the initials even, you know, you're throwing out baloney, you know, so to speak, they're going to know it. And what they're going to end up doing is probably cutting you and not selecting you. But when my first 6 months in sterile processing, when surveyors would come in for joint commission through the front door, you know, my coworkers would go out the back door and wouldn't even tell me that we had joint commission surveys there. And so my manager would come in with the surveyor, and the surveyor would ask me a question, and I'd say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I haven't been in the field that long. I don't know the answer to that question. But with that, I learned that, you know, it's okay to say I don't know. Now, when I said I didn't know, my manager's behind the surveyor going, you know, don't say that. Well, I'm not, you know, because guess what? Surveyors will know when you're throwing baloney at them as well. So there was a time when I went on an interview, and I can't remember the exact question that was asked me, but I sat there and it was like, you know what? I don't have an answer. So I flat out told him, you know, I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that question. And I did, and I just happened to say, you know what? I mean, how would you want that done? You know, that's how, you know, I didn't actually say to them, how would you answer the question? You know, I asked them in a way of, how would you like that done? You know, what's, I mean, what is the answer? I mean, because I'm learning right now, as you know, as well as showing you my experience and my lack of experience. And I ended up getting the job because the manager appreciated me being upfront and honest. And sometimes what it is, it's going back to turning it into a conversation and not an interview. When you can get the manager to talk about what's going on in the department, what their pain points, even if you're a technician, and turn that so they're talking to you, and now you're able to reinforce and say, you know what, wow, I can understand your frustration with that. And if you might have some experience with it, then you can say, well, you know what, I ran into that situation as well, and this is how we handled it. And you know, having a conversation with the manager is a lot better than interviewing, because unfortunately, eventually, if you get the question answer, an interviewee is going to finally most likely get to a question they don't know how to answer. Right. But that's okay. They need to know how to respond. For instance, you know, but I tell my students, you know, if it's a technical question, how do you do this? You know, I don't know, but I know how to find out. Oh, okay. Yep. How would you find out? Well, I talked to my lead. I talked to my supervisor. This was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We had IFUs, but we didn't have a database of them, you know, or I would go look, but I would tell them, I go up and look for the IFU. And that first surveyor, even though my manager was like, you know, getting upset with me saying, I don't know, I at least followed up, said, I don't know, but I know how to find out. And I told them how to find out. And they said, okay, great. We'll be back in an hour and have the answer ready for us when we return. And I did one better. Once I got the answer, I went and searched for the surveyor and went and gave her the answer. And it was great. You know, she was like, wow, because it prevented her from coming back in the department. Because once they come back in, that's a can of worms. They can then go and, you know, continue inspecting. But once they're out of the department, typically if they don't have a reason, they're not going to come back. So that's, you know, so that's my answer to why I tell people, you know, at least be upfront. If you don't know how to answer the question, you know, if you don't know the answer, at least, you know, you have to have an answer of some type.
I like that. And I think I want to add on to that too. Good. And also, I when he mentioned that too about asking the interviewer or your manager that question back. I mean, if the manager or the person interviewing you have a problem with you asking them, I would think, do I even want to work with this person? Because what if I have questions or I need to challenge something in the future? How would that go over with that person? So that's why I feel like you're interviewing them too. Like, can they even handle the question? Because it happened to me before. I asked the interviewer a question and they stumbled. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get this job because they really didn't have the answer. But I ended up getting the job. Because some people are looking for strong people like that. They're looking for people who are asking those questions or challenging that manager. Because the best people to have around you are those who know more than you. So, hey.
Well, I agree with that because when I'm a manager in a sterile processing department, I want to hire technicians that know more than me.
Yes.
Because the one thing I've always said after 33 years in the field, I don't know all the you know, there's so many different types of tools and equipment that the facilities I've worked at, they never had it. They, you know, and so I wouldn't know what to do. So, you know, when another, you know, going back to the interview, but, you know, this, you know, as far as, you know, when I said earlier, what are your strengths and stuff? And I said interviewing. Actually, my, you know, what I tell them in an interview is my networking ability. I have so many people I know that if I don't know the answer, I know where to again find it because I have resources that most technicians don't have.
Right.
You know, and I tell my students, when you go into an interview, tell them, you know, I have the greatest resource, you know, that for sterile processing knowledge that I'm bringing with me. And they'll go, well, what do you mean about my old instructor? Because for one reason or another, he knows a lot of people in the industry, whether it's vendors, you know, manufacturing, you know, technicians, doctors, you know. So I've, you know, again, I've been in the field for 33 years and I've developed, you know, most of that since 2008 is when I've gathered, because I learned how to network by going to the, you know, like ISHM conferences and the local conferences. So going back to education, you know, Deannard, I love education. So I'm going to tell everybody who ends up watching this video, when COVID is over, make sure you go to your local seminars and stuff held by, you know, if you have an association in your state, support them by going and you get the education. But it's the networking capabilities. You meet other people, and hey, there's things I definitely know, and there's things I definitely don't know. You know, I know I'm going to be talking to Alessandra later because she's like, she built a website and she's got all this thing. And I'm like, really? I got a website, but I had somebody else build it for me. And I'm, you know, and the school's successful and all, but it's like, it could be better.
Right. Correct. Yeah. So, I do like the fact that you said that you should tell the interviewer as much as possible so they won't be asking you questions down the line. So, in Alessandra and I was did a mock interview today, and I was trying to do the same thing.
You did.
If you leave it open, then you don't know how they're going to ask you the question or what they're actually trying to get from you. So if you try and answer those from the gate, then I think the interview will go much better.
Yeah, you definitely did that today. You answered a lot of my questions without me asking them.
I tried. I'm trying to perfect it, but you know, it's difficult sometimes. But so guys, it's almost an hour. I think we should kind of wrap up.
Okay.
Let me switch up. Anything you guys want to talk about or say?
Well, real quick, well, first of all, I know that Deannard, you wanted to talk about people out in the industry, from other countries. I do want to do a shout out to Zara in the Philippines.
Hey.
Loyola, I think it's Loyola. I'm terrible with names, but she's a sterile processing tech in the in the Philippines. But I think she travels to like the Middle East and everything to work and stuff. So I want to shout out to her. I want to shout out to Alessandra. I'm really happy the fact that I was able to, that she friended me on Facebook. I guess after I answered part or a question.
Yes.
I don't know if other people notice this, but in the sterile processing groups, every once in a while I see people being a little snarky in their responses, and they're not giving, it's either yes or no answers, and it's like, there's definitely a better answer. And so I go through and I try to be as succinct and professional. Again, we got to practice, everything's practice. And we got, if we're going to be treated as a professional organization, we have to act professional at all times.
Yes.
And by being professional at all times, we can demand the respect.
Yes.
Definitely.
So again, to the international sterile processing technicians that are out there, God bless you for, it is amazing how many people, are in sterile processing. There's a lot of us.
Yes.
SPD Army.
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to say something coming from because I know a lot of the international folks come from really tough backgrounds. You don't know it's tough until you get to America and you see everybody has Nikes and everybody has a big house with an indoor toilet and stuff like that. But when you grew up where I grew up, where you have to go to the river to take a bath in the morning, where you have one pair of shoes for an entire year, or you have one uniform or two shirts and one pants to go to school for an entire semester, or you have one bag that's a hand-me-down. So I realized that a lot of these people grew up in spots where they didn't have much at all, and then people wonder why they work so much or why they do so much because they didn't grow up with much, and they have that mentality that they need when they get the chance to they get as much as they can while they can. So I just want to thank those people who not only support themselves but support their family back home. Sometimes you think these people only pay their rent and their bills, but they have 10, 15 people overseas supporting as well. So I think it's very important just to acknowledge those people and the pressures they have. They may be taking care of generations behind them and generations after them, and it's all on their shoulders. So I really appreciate those people, and I understand where they're coming from in that sense.
So you said we were supposed to guess where you're from? Is that like we'll get an answer the next time we show up?
I was hoping you'd forget that. I was actually hoping you'd forget that.
Because I always felt like it's rude to ask people, so I never ask, but I always want to know.
Well, most people would probably assume Jamaica, but
that's what I thought.
But you threw out that clue when you said, what did you say, Trinidad or something like that?
Yeah, not Jamaica or Trinidad. But you guys are close. You guys are close.
Wait a minute. Virgin Islands.
No, you're getting cold.
Do you speak Spanish?
Poquito. No, not at all. No. I can say like 5 words randomly to make people believe I can, but I can't.
Sí, poquito.
Poquito.
Do you speak more than one language? Do you speak more than just English?
Yes. I speak Creole, French Creole.
So you're from Africa?
Nope. You're getting real cold. I'm feeling ice on my skin right now.
What? So we
so you know what? You're not an immigrant at all. You're from Nolans.
You're from Florida.
Okay, so y'all give up. I'll give y'all the answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm from St. Lucia.
Oh, I've heard of
Yeah,
that place. Not often. No, let me Google this.
yeah, I'm
St.
from St.
Lucia.
Lucia. It's 14 miles wide by 28 miles long. It's a little itsy
Oh,
bitsy island
wow.
in the Caribbean.
Kind of like Guam then.
It's better than Guam. I just have to say that. I have to put
Yeah,
that
but
out
you got to be careful.
Oh.
You want to make sure you don't have any too much population on the
Mhm.
island, because we had a representative from the South. I think he's Congressman Johnson or something like that. He's on YouTube when
Mhm.
he's talking to an admiral. And he's like, we talk about Guam, like he was worried that if it's too many population that the island's gonna capsize. And it was like,
Wow.
oh my god.
What?
Go to YouTube and type in Guam capsize Johnson.
Oh, wow.
It'll come up, and you
Maybe
watch
he
it. It's just like.
maybe he's a bad storyteller or joke teller. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just
No, he was pretty. When you listen to him, you're like, okay, I understand. And the admiral was completely professional, just looking at him like, and answered as honestly and as best he
Wow.
could without cracking up. He didn't crack up. He kept a straight face because he's military and all. So.
And guys, I have to give a shout out, or I have to put on that Mid-Atlantic Central Service Association MAXA is having a live face-to-face virtual on the 27th of February.
Okay.
I'll try and put that link. I put it out before, but I'll put it again on the process groups, and I believe CS Nation. Harry didn't even speak on CS Nation, but I'll give you a chance to talk about that. So it'll be free, and you be getting 3.5 CEs. It's from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday the 27th. There'll be door prizes also for persons coming in, and it'll be all interactive. We have 2 presenters from Key Surgical on there. And also we have the cast, the authors from the Wild, what I did during the pandemic, what I learned during the pandemic book. So they will be presenting their stories on the book and what inspired them to write the book. So so that'll be good education also. So I hope you guys tune in.
Okay.
Well, get us the information so we can put it on LinkedIn, Facebook, because it's not just you have your contacts, we have ours, and let's blow it up for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're definitely looking for a large turnout this time. Last time we had about 20 folks, 22, 30, 20, it was about 28. This time we're hoping for a larger turnout. So I'm definitely looking for some support on that end. And I'll do another selfish plug. This summer, since we have the pandemic, or this spring, I would like to start a bike ride for sterile processing professionals to just get in shape and get that. So I'm in the Philadelphia area, so it'll probably be one Sunday a month where we get our bikes together and ride. So I'm thinking around the Philadelphia parks, maybe Fairmount Park or somewhere like that. So I haven't decided exactly where. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm trying to organize a bike ride for sterile processing professionals, and so anybody could steal it if they want. And sterile processing week, which I believe the pandemic will still have some signs of having the pandemic. I would like to do a sterile processing walk during sterile processing week in October. So those are 2 things I'm planning to try and get professionals together to interact with each other, since we have the this social distancing going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea, the bike ride, and getting texts, not necessarily just from their own hospitals, but around the area together.
Yeah.
There is a manager I know down in San Diego that he every year during the summertime, he puts out an invite to all the sterile processing techs, sterile processing managers in the San Diego County area. And they have a barbecue and beach party every year. Of course, this last year with COVID, they didn't. But it's a way, again, it's the networking ability and stuff. It's really important. And shameless plugs. You talked about CSS Nation is brand new. Last I saw, we had I'm sorry here. Let me.
You're cheating.
I am cheating. So we're up to 66 members. I think it's been open for about a week and a half. So the purpose behind it, ultimately for me, is education, networking abilities, any issue dealing with sterile processing.
Okay.
There's only one rule, and that's just to be respectful when responding and communicating with everybody. But if there's job postings and anything sterile processing, we're not going to inhibit any. If somebody wants to put out, join, and then they put up that they're having an educational offering, go for it. People look at it and say CSS Nation, why isn't it CS Nation or this and that? Well, to be truthful, CSS is Central Sterilization Solutions. We're all about solutions, and we are a nation of sterile processing techs. I mean, there's a lot of us out there and stuff. And then my last plug for the school, Central Sterilization Solutions, for anybody who sees this that is not a sterile processing tech or you're not certified, we got the certification program. We're outstanding, and we offer financing.
What?
All right, as low as 6.99. It's not us financing it. We got a lender that finally can do that. It's based on your credit, but a lot of students they don't like our payment plans because it's a lot down, and then it's a lot cheaper than most of the courses out there. Most of here in California, it's $12,000 to become a sterile processing tech, and we're not even close to that. So, but that's the last plug I wanted to say to that. Now it's the lender's turn. Plug something.
Oh my God, yes. So ionspd.com. From there, you can go to my podcast. There's resources if you're a traveler, even if you want to find out how much money people are making in every city and every state in the United States. You can find that there. We got the swag there. We have flashcards, study material, videos, pretty much everything you're going to need is the sterile processing tech. So check us out, ionspd.com.
All right. And you know what? Please do not be offended by the color of the hat.
I like that.
And it is educational. Hashtag CSS. Hashtag education.
I like that.
But
I need to start wearing stuff.
I like it. And let's go to a commercial break. Since we plug in, let's plug.
Yeah. That look good.
Yeah, so that's my little project. I started this store in April. I actually created the business in January, but I was so busy in February, March, I didn't do anything. And April, that's when we kind of furloughed folks and things were really at a standstill. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with all this not busy time? All this time I'm not busy.
I'm about to get my gear.
I decided to create a store on Etsy to basically showcase sterile processing apparel or sayings basically that people might want to wear and just express themselves. I was tired of seeing. I like what's out right now with all the little stuff, but I found a lot of the shirts out there were just too busy. It wasn't my style.
Yeah.
I like simple, clear sayings and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna do stuff I like.
Yeah.
And also get ideas from other professionals. So I like simple, plain stuff with not too busy, So so check the store out. Leave a comment, like. I have a perfect rating of 5. Since I started in February. Everyone who has bought has had good reviews. So I am perfect in terms of reviews. So please support. And that's it.
Okay, then. Do we get a clap, or is any other noise that you have? Or
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah. So yeah. So all right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.